Why Zion Williamson won't last long in the NBA. Zion Williamson is potentially one of the greatest young talents that we have seen since LeBron James. All throughout his college and even high school career, Williamson has drawn comparisons to the current greatest player in the NBA. These are very steep expectations and a lot of pressure for such a young player. However, after missing half of the season due to an injury, Zion lit the world on fire as soon as his rookie debut. There is currently a case to be made for him to win Rookie of the Year over Ja Morant, who has put together quite the season himself. However, there is a large number of fans and analysts that not only believe that Zion will not be able to maintain this level of play, but some go as far to believe that Zion will not even be in the league for much longer. We will be taking a deep dive into some of the reasons that people think this way. As a disclaimer, this is not the view of Up Next Sports. It is simply the thoughts of certain fans and analysts in the NBA community. Injury concerns in history. One of the main arguments from someone who says that Zion will not have a long-lasting career in the NBA is that he has already had such an extensive injury history at such a young age. The first major injury of his career came just seconds into the biggest game of his college career. The North Carolina vs. Duke game was one of the most highly anticipated games of the college season. However, shortly after tip-off, Zion's left foot blew through his shoe, and he immediately grabbed his knee. The injury did not keep him off the court for long. However, the injury sparked a national debate on if Zion should even come back to finish the season with the Blue Devils, as it was speculated that this could lead to a long string of injuries or he could suffer a much more serious injury that would affect both his NBA draft stock and career. This also led to many speculating that Williamson would be plagued with injuries for the rest of his career. The second and most recent injury that was suffered by Williamson was much more serious. In his Summer League debut and first game as an NBA player with the New Orleans Pelicans, Williamson went down with what was thought to be at the time a very minor injury against the New York Knicks. While it was said shortly after the game that the injury was minor and he would be back for the beginning of the season, he would sit out for almost half of the 2019-2020 NBA regular season. It is still not truly known what the injury was, or how serious the injury was, but it is safe to assume that the injury was much worse than the Pelicans organization let on. With both of these injuries coming within such a short time span, and before Zion even suited up for an official regular season NBA game, it raised speculation from many, saying that the injury bug would stick with Zion throughout the remainder of his NBA career. Many went on to say that the constant knee injuries would likely lead to his athletic ability being considerably affected. As a result of this, some jumped to the conclusion that injuries could be a major cause of Zion's NBA career never reaching its full potential, or even being cut short early. However, the Pelicans medical staff has spent countless hours working on everything with Zion, even training him on how to walk in a more effective way that would cause less stress on his legs. Along with this, ever since he made his NBA debut against the San Antonio Spurs, Zion has not suffered any major injuries in his rookie season. His lack of shooting. The next argument from those who believe that Zion will not last long in the NBA is that his game is not built for the modern NBA. The main point of this argument is his lack of shooting, which is something that modern teams are looking for all their players to have the ability to do. Shooting has always been an issue in Williamson's game, and is by far the weakest part of his skill set. He struggles when jump shooting, specifically from the three-point line. Also, Williamson has, from college on, struggled greatly from the free throw line as well. In college, even with the three-point line being closer to the basket than it is in the NBA, Williamson only shot 33.8% from three and attempted 2.2 threes a game. This is not an awful percentage, however, it does leave a lot of room for improvement that we have not seen yet from Zion in his short NBA career. Although the free throw percentage, objectively speaking, is poor to say the least. He shot 64% from the free throw line in college on 6.2 free throws per game. This is another facet of Williamson's game that we have not seen much improvement throughout his rookie season. It was looking like Zion had fixed his three-point shooting in his rookie debut, when he shot 4 for 4 from 3 against the Spurs, and technically speaking after that game, he has maintained a very high three-point percentage at 46.2%. However, after the 4 threes he shot in his debut, he has only attempted 9 more threes in his next 18 games. Free throws are where, statistically speaking, we have seen almost no improvement for Zion from his college career to his rookie season. He went from 64% at the line in college to 64.5% in the pros. This makes him a very poor free throw shooter, and because of his physical style of play, he ends up at the free throw line very often. Detractors of Zion say that these weak points are enough to make his game detrimental enough to a team for him not to be on an NBA roster within the next few seasons. However, to counter this point, there are enough strong facets of his game to keep him serviceable enough on a team to be a star, or at least a very quality starter. He is a great playmaker for his size. On top of this, he is a spectacular rebounder on both sides of the ball. Lastly, his athleticism makes him almost unguardable outside of a handful of players in the entire NBA, which is something that we rarely see from a player in their rookie season. He is very undersized for his position and struggles against bigger, stronger players. Another point of skepticism that analysts made leading up to the 2019 draft was that Zion would not fit in the NBA because he only stands at 6 foot 6 inches. He mainly plays the power forward position, where players almost always are considerably taller than him. This point does have some value to it. Zion does struggle against larger players who are elite defenders like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Anthony Davis. These are situations where the main facet of Zion's game is eliminated as he struggles at the basket. Also, the height of players like those previously mentioned greatly limits Zion's vision, leading him to be turnover prone. However, against most matchups, even with the players being taller than him, Williamson outweighs almost all of them and has the strength to absolutely bully them and have his way around the rim. So while this argument does have a little credibility, it is only valid when Williamson and the Pelicans go against elite defenders or teams that scheme extremely well for him. This weak point will not be enough for him to be out of the NBA anytime soon. His body cannot maintain his style of play. This point ties to the first argument that we covered, and it is the school of thought that Zion's body will not be able to maintain his style of play for a long time, and will soon break down once it has gone through the grind of an NBA season for a few years. Zion's game is centered around a hyper-athletic and physical playstyle. A lot of his offense comes from banging down in the low post and running the fast break. Williamson, being one of the heaviest players in the league despite being nowhere near one of the tallest, makes this style of play very hard on his legs and knees. This has also made itself clear. Both of Zion's major injuries during his time at Duke and in the Summer League had to do with his lower body. The constant wear and tear of an 82-game NBA season, along with Zion's playing style and weight, could be a lethal combination that cuts his career short and causes him to be out of the league much sooner than anyone expects. Bad karma and curses. First pick of the draft every 7 years. The final point that people make as to why Zion would be a bust and would not have a long career in the NBA was honestly laughable, although there was an interesting trend that was brought up. The theory stated that there was a 6-year pattern in which the first pick of the NBA draft would end up being an absolute bust. The trend was reliable up until 2013, and could be traced all the way back almost 24 years from the 2013 draft to the 1989 NBA draft. Beginning in 1989, the Sacramento Kings drafted Pervis Ellison. Ellison lasted 12 seasons in the NBA, playing for the Sacramento Kings, Washington Bullets, Boston Celtics, and Seattle Supersonics. He started in just over half the games he participated in, and finished his career averaging 9.5 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 1.6 blocks per game. The next victim of the supposed curse was Joe Smith, who was drafted by the Golden State Warriors. Smith lasted 15 years in the league, playing with several teams, including the Golden State Warriors, Philadelphia 76ers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Detroit Pistons, Milwaukee Bucks, Denver Nuggets, Chicago Bulls, Cleveland Cavaliers, Oklahoma City Thunder, Atlanta Hawks, New Jersey Nets, and Los Angeles Lakers. While he had a long career, Smith did not quite have the career that many would expect from a first overall pick. The next player in the curse is one of the worst first overall picks of all time, Kwame Brown. Brown was drafted by the Washington Wizards, and he had a 12-year career in which he played with the Wizards, Lakers, Grizzlies, Pistons, Bobcats, Warriors, and 76ers. Brown had one of the most disappointing careers in NBA history, as he was projected to be one of the biggest names in the NBA. He finished his career with an average of 6.6 points and 5.5 rebounds. Fast forward 6 years, the first overall pick was Greg Oden, who was selected by the Portland Trail Blazers. While Oden had the potential to be a great player in the NBA, injuries plagued his career, never allowing us to see his full potential, or what he could do at the professional level. Oden played for the Portland Trail Blazers and the Miami Heat. He only lasted 4 seasons on an NBA roster, and started in 66 of the 105 games he participated in. He finished his NBA career averaging 8 points, 6.2 rebounds, and 1.2 blocks per game. The final player that is part of the curse is Anthony Bennett, who was drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's also in contention as the worst first overall pick ever selected. He spent only 4 seasons in the league and found himself on a new team every year. Bennett played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Toronto Raptors, and Brooklyn Nets. Going into the draft, posts bringing light to this theory and supposed curse began circulating everywhere on social media, trying to use this pattern to say that Zion would be a bust and out of the league shortly after he became a part of it. While this is an interesting pattern that is currently happening, it is a given that this is just purely circumstantial, and the careers of others have nothing to do with the career of Zion. Final thoughts. While Zion Williamson burst onto the scene after a delayed start to his rookie season, there are a few drawbacks when looking at him, his game, and the circumstances around him that cause many fans and analysts to believe that he could be out of the NBA much sooner than he may plan. It will be interesting to see if some of these predictions come true, or if Zion goes on to prove the haters, skeptics, and non-believers wrong, and goes on to have the amazing career that it appears he can. For more basketball content like this, make sure to subscribe, and tune in next time for the next video.